Have you ever shared something about yourself and felt it unravel the moment it left your mouth? We're told openness builds trust, that transparency is strength, that the more we reveal, the more real we become. But maybe, just maybe, what we withhold carries more truth than what we speak. In a world screaming, "Show more," there's a quiet rebellion in choosing not to. Not out of fear, not out of shame, but out of wisdom. What if real strength is choosing what not to say? What if holding back isn't hiding, but healing? What if silence, well placed, is the deepest form of self-respect? Because the things we don't broadcast, our goals, our love, our joy, our pain, those may just be the parts of us most worth protecting. If you've ever felt the weight of oversharing, this might be the reflection you didn't know you needed. Your past made you, but it doesn't own you. And it doesn't need to be unpacked in front of everyone who asks, or every time life gets quiet. Sharing your story can be healing, but repeating it endlessly, that can quietly reopen wounds that already tried to close. Just because something happened to you doesn't mean it has to keep happening through you. Yes, your losses shaped you. Your heartbreaks carved depth. But the value is not in the pain itself. It's in what you did with it, what you became because of it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Not every scar needs a spotlight. Some are better kept as quiet reminders, not public exhibits." Seneca believed difficulties strengthen the mind like labor strengthens the body. So the point isn't to retell the storm, it's to grow from it. To show up in the sun wiser, steadier, and less shaken by the wind. Because when we keep revisiting our old stories, we risk becoming their narrator instead of their author. So if you've been carrying your past like a banner, maybe it's time to fold it gently and let who you are now take the lead. You don't have to announce your every ambition. Not every dream needs a public declaration to be valid. Sometimes, the things that matter most grow best in the dark. There's something sacred about keeping your goals to yourself, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for the process, for the uncertainty, for the quiet miracle of becoming. We live in a culture that romanticizes bold declarations. Tell the world your dream and it'll come true. But often the more we talk about what we'll do, the less we end up doing. It's a trap, a quiet one that replaces momentum with validation, because saying something out loud gives us a false sense of progress. It's called social reality, where just talking about the goal makes the brain feel like it's already halfway there. But it isn't. We're not. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In goals, that translates to this: let your work echo louder than your words ever could. Hold your dream close, not to hide it, but to protect its shape while it's still forming. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." No announcement, just action. No performance, just progress. Because when your dream finally arrives, let it speak for itself. And let the world meet it, not in anticipation, but in awe. You don't need to explain why you're happy. You don't owe it to anyone to prove it. Not with selfies, not with long captions, not with fake laughter in public places. Real happiness is quiet. It doesn't need validation to feel real. And it certainly doesn't need to be loud to be deep. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not your followers, not your feed, not your relationship status, just your thoughts. We live in a world that pressures us to showcase joy as if it's a performance, smiling not because we feel it, but because the camera is already rolling. But true happiness? It's when you're at peace, in silence. When you don't have to say, "I'm doing great," because your energy already tells the story. Epictetus believed we define happiness by how we respond to life, not by how life looks to others. A calm mind, a steady heart. That's the real gold. And you don't need to explain gold to people who only chase glitter. Carl Jung once said, "The word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness." So don't feel the need to paint over the dark with fake brightness. Your joy can live next to your sorrow. It doesn't have to compete. Let happiness be yours. Let it glow in small moments, not for the world to clap, but for you to feel whole. Love isn't a stage. It's not something you perform. It's something you live, quietly, deliberately, and sometimes imperfectly, out of sight. You don't have to post it to prove it. You don't have to explain your connection, defend your happiness, or prove your loyalty with matching bios and filtered photos. The most sacred moments in love are the ones nobody else sees. The soft, "Are you okay?" at midnight. The shared silence on tired evenings. The smile across the room that only means something to the two of you. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." That applies to love, too. Don't explain your relationship. Live it. With presence, with patience, with protection. Marcus Aurelius believed in restraint and inner strength. He wrote, "Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. Some parts of love are like the stars, distant, beautiful, not for display, but for deep, quiet awe. Because once too many voices crowd your love, friends, opinions, likes, assumptions, it starts to unravel. Not because love is weak, but because love grows best in safe, uncluttered places." Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. That transformation is sacred, and sacred things aren't meant for the spotlight. So protect what's precious, not with walls, but with wisdom. Real wealth doesn't shout. It doesn't dress in glitter or beg for applause. It moves in silence, firm, grounded, and free. You can have everything and still need to prove nothing. You can live richly and still choose simplicity." Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The less you need, the freer you become. And the less you show, the more you protect." We live in a world that confuses net worth with self-worth, as if the numbers in your account define the weight of your character. But true value isn't stored in bank accounts. It's in your choices, your peace, your dignity. Marcus Aurelius believed that a man in harmony with himself is in harmony with the universe. That kind of harmony can't be bought, and it certainly can't be shown off. There's danger in revealing too much, not because people are bad, but because wealth invites projections, admiration, jealousy, assumptions, and sometimes sabotage. Carl Jung reminded us that people's reactions often say more about them than about us. When you speak of your money, you expose more than your balance. You expose your vulnerability. And not everyone around you is safe enough to hold it gently. So don't hide your success out of fear. But don't flaunt it for approval either. Let your wealth serve you, not enslave you. Let it soften your days, not harden your heart. And let it remain where it belongs, within, not on display. Trust isn't something you say. It's something you show, quietly, consistently, and without applause. You don't build trust by calling yourself loyal. You build it by being there, by saying nothing when it would have been easier to say everything, by holding someone's truth like it's your own. When a friend opens up, they're not just sharing information. They're handing you something delicate, sacred, not to be repeated, not to be turned into a story, but to be held in confidence. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen more and speak less." True friends don't echo secrets, they absorb them. And then they stay silent, not because they're hiding something, but because they respect what isn't theirs to tell. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That includes being the kind of friend who doesn't just mean well, but does well, especially when no one's watching. Because trust isn't proven in grand gestures. It's built in the quiet, in the moments no one claps for. Carl Jung believed that every deep relationship transforms us, that each exchange leaves a mark. And when we keep a secret, we're not just protecting the other person. We're protecting the space between us. So if someone has trusted you with something private, don't see it as weight. See it as honor. And carry it like you carry your own dignity. Close, careful, and with quiet strength. You don't owe the world your agreement. Not every trend needs your approval. Not every opinion deserves your alignment. There's a quiet strength in holding your ground, especially when it would be easier, more convenient, or more like to just follow along. Epictetus believed that freedom is found in disregarding what lies beyond our control. That includes how others perceive your values. What matters most isn't how popular your principles are, but how deeply they anchor you when the current pulls hard. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Be tolerant with others, but strict with yourself." In other words, let people live how they want, but don't dilute what matters to you just to make them comfortable. This isn't pride, it's integrity. Because when you bend too far to please the world, you lose sight of who you were before the noise began. And once you start shrinking your truth to fit their mold, you forget what it felt like to stand tall, alone if necessary. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that path? It's rarely crowded, because it takes courage to stay committed to values when they're inconvenient. It takes discipline to speak gently, even when others shout. And it takes wisdom to walk away from applause that doesn't come from your own heart. So if your values feel heavy at times, good. That means they're real and worth carrying. We've just explored a different kind of strength, one that doesn't shout, one that doesn't beg to be seen, one that lives quietly, beneath the noise. We looked at the power of silence, of not oversharing our past, of nurturing our goals in private, of smiling without explaining, of loving without performing, of living richly but humbly, of holding secrets with care, of staying rooted in our values even when no one else stands with us. And maybe that's the point, to live in a way that feels true, regardless of who's watching. Because authenticity isn't a trend, it's not content, it's a daily practice, a quiet discipline, a return to your center. So here's something worth asking. When was the last time you chose your truth over being understood? If this video gave you something to think about, sit with it. Let it settle. And if you feel called, leave a thought below or subscribe to join this quiet community of steady souls. In a world chasing noise, may you remain still. In a time of performance, may you remain real. You don't need to shine to be seen. You just need to be whole, on your own terms.